This episode, the Handyman Pros Do and Review. Is going to discuss a recent job we did together that was a barn repair. We've got several lessons that we've learned from this job. It's not really lessons, but folks, we've been eating our own dog food, so we've got some experiences to share with you on this particular barn repair. Thanks for listening to another edition of the Handyman Pros Radio Show, where our goal is to help save you time, money, and aggravation on your home maintenance and repair. This episode's called The Handyman Pros Do and Review a Barn Repair. To help me explain, Johnny, this was your job, so you take it from here.
Welcome everybody. Welcome back. We were tasked with fixing some siding on a barn, and it was an interesting job. Not totally difficult, but it was rotten. They built.
That's an understatement.
So what happened is, on the side of this barn, at the end of the barn, they built a, like, what would you call that, Larry? Like a lean-to or something against.
Basically a roof over an old,
they made
like,
a shed
kind of. Yeah.
They made a shed standing next to the barn.
Right.
Well, the barn must be how high? 50 feet high? I don't know.
It's something 40 to 50 feet.
Yeah,
it's pretty,
yeah.
Like, let's just say it's above the Handyman Pros level of doing any work. Let's
up,
put it that way.
Yeah, way up there. But
way up there. Yeah.
But this thing is only maybe 10 feet high. Plus there was a roof over that too, a gutter.
And we do have some pictures.
And
on
we
the
got
video
some
that
pictures
we'll show
here, but to explain it to people who aren't watching this, the gutter on top of this thing was leaking against where the roof met the side of the barn.
Correct. And let's clarify a little bit too, just while we're at it. It was T111 siding on 12-inch centers. We'll get to that later. And it was set on top of the foundation. So it was, what would you say, John, 3 or 4 feet high?
Yes. Yeah. The foundation itself. Yeah.
Right. So when we were doing this repair, we actually had to lift the sheets up and or pull the sheets down to get them down. But it wasn't just at ground level. So we were probably working, probably 4 feet, I suppose, to get the sheets up. And so you'll see in the pictures, if you look at the video, you'll see in the pictures where these sheets actually attach. So this just isn't a ground level thing where we're slapping up. And plus this roof, to give a verbal description, this roof was actually it was, what would we say, 2 or 3 inches? Close.
Yes.
To the siding.
Siding. Yes. Yeah. And that's kind of the takeaway. Guys, if you're going to do something like this, that kind of the takeaway on this, and we'll show you some pictures in just a second here, but it's, seal up everything if you can.
Yes.
Because any of this water that's pouring against the siding and it just remains there, it's a disaster. It's a disaster.
It took T111 siding and turned it into into rotten sawdust. I mean, it was junk.
This isn't just any T111 siding. This is the 12-inch stuff.
Yeah, it's the thick.
It's
the
really
thick
stuff and the wide stuff.
And the wide stuff. Yeah, it's basically the best of the T111 siding that you can get. So I just thought we'd kind of go through process a little bit here, John, because you called me about this job and we actually FaceTimed looking at this job. And I want to just put it out there so people understand, because of some of these, we'll call them challenging or situations, meaning that the siding was really close to this thing. We weren't even sure it wasn't actually directly attached until we really started taking it apart. And we also had some rotten joists on that roof that came out, that was part of the shed, which, by the way, yours truly was standing on. We decided we were going to shore up that roof as well, because that roof was made out of 2x4s, which normally isn't a bad situation. But when you look up at it and you see the rot starting on the 2x4s, you're kind of like, do I want to stand on that? Yeah, right. And this was a metal roof that we were standing on, by the way, just to give you a better idea. We had determined early on the root cause of this problem was a couple of things. One was the gutters were just full of junk. So, folks, the tip there is clean your gutters out every once in a while. Gutters are designed to take the water away from your home, not let the water pour out onto your siding. That's the tip, right? Or one tip. The second thing was is there were two levels of this roof. There was a high level which the gutter came, and that's the one that was pouring down the siding. You'll see it when we show the pictures, but it's pouring down the siding. That's what caused the rot initially. And then the second thing was they had the gutter actually they had a downspout that came out and poured onto the secondary roof, which they didn't have flashed properly. And so the water spilled into there and caused a rot issue there. So there were two places that were rotten from effectively from a lack of maintenance and also from I considered it to be a poor installation situation.
It was a
it was both.
They put this thing up in a hurry.
Yep. Yep. No doubt.
But I think the other kind of takeaway on one of the things is that let me go back to when we were doing this, with the technology of doing like FaceTime and stuff like that, it's great.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You got folks out there, take advantage of all this technology. If you've got somebody else that's going to help you out and things like that, just start a FaceTime session, and you don't have to wait for them to come out there. Don't waste the money to gasoline and just get it done. Send pictures, the whole bit. I mean, I'm probably preaching to the choir, but it really does help, and you can get some really good clarity taking a look at that.
Yes, it's not quite like being there, but it is. But it was very helpful for me because John was actually on the location and he was FaceTiming me and he was showing me everything, and it really allowed us to get a good idea of what our process was before we ever got started. Like what are we going to need and what tools do we need and all of that kind of stuff. Because not that we needed anything super special, but we did need tall ladders.
You never know, and you don't want to be surprised because it is your time,
right?
It's your time. So
and there's that aggravation factor as well. So we don't like aggravation.
Exactly. Exactly.
So yeah, so that was our initial planning, and we basically we got an idea of what we needed for materials and what potential challenges we were going to have. And John, in his eminent wisdom, kudos to John, went down to the local Lowe's and actually verified that they had the siding at the time that we initially decided to take this job.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the here comes the rest of the story. So as we started to execute this job, right, we decided we would take off the old siding first because we didn't know how much rot was going to be behind the siding, right? It was kind of a voyage of discovery. Plus, we actually didn't really know what the construction method was up behind the siding, right, John? So we decided, okay, so we're going to take the siding off, and then we'll make sure that we have everything that we needed. And for example, there was one thing that we didn't know how we were going to do just from doing FaceTime, and that was we were going to reflash the roof to the siding that was there. Yeah. We were going to put some flash. We didn't really know. It was hard to tell from pictures and from the FaceTime exactly what products we were going to use. Plus, we didn't know what products were actually available. So there was that. One of the other things that we came up with that I'm going to say we somewhat overlooked it initially. We didn't overlook it initially, I guess I'm trying to say, but we came up with a solution. There was some siding on the barn that was actually rotten. Now, folks, this siding was really unique stuff. This was 2x6 tongue and groove. I think it was cedar. I'm not sure, John. Was it cedar?
It
doesn't matter.
Yeah, I believe it was, and I don't know. I don't. I haven't even seen that stuff.
I've never seen it before in my life. All I know is that it was literally 2x6s with a tongue and groove notch in it. And fortunately, there were about 3 pieces that needed to be replaced because they were I think they were bug chewed more than they were rotten. They weren't necessarily rotten, but they had some damage on them.
Yeah.
Fortunately, there was some sitting in the shed. And because I wouldn't even know where to source that stuff, but there was some sitting there. So I said to my buddy, John, John, should we just repair that while we can take that over there and we can fix it? And so we did that as well. So it was a little bit of a value add for the customer. But we just did, trust me, I would have never committed to that beforehand, because there's no way you could have. Like I say, I don't know where I would source that material without, and plus it would probably cost you $10 million
man.
dollars.
Oh yeah.
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 So,
Well, it would have
so
taken us the rest of the afternoon to find out where that stuff was too. You know.
or longer,
Yeah.
you know, or long. Of course, we're probably going to get 14 emails. Hey, we can
Well,
do
I
that.
hope somebody and if you guys have dealt with this stuff before, great. You know, we haven't dealt with everything. Just send us a message.
Yep. Yep. Sure enough. I mean, yeah, really. So we did all that, right, John? And we got a good we're list people. So we put a list on our phone of everything we needed to go get. We go down to Lowe's, and what happened, John?
No siding.
Yeah. No
No,
siding.
none of this wide stuff.
Yeah. Not the 12-inch on centers. When
Nope.
John went, he probably saw the last 2 sheets of 12-inch on center
The
board
guy,
that was
yep,
in
yep.
the
The
Lowe's
guy's
that
like,
day.
oh yeah, I got some. It's back here. It's way back there. I'm like, okay, I whack back there. Got the tape measure out. Sure enough, that's it. But by the time we go back,
It's all gone.
It's all gone.
So we get on our, as we've done a show on using your apps for your your store apps, right? So the Lowe's app or the Home Depot app, or if you've got
Yep.
Menards, I'm sure they've got an app too. We got on the apps and we started looking around for stores trying to find this stuff. And what did we find, John?
None of it's around anywhere.
Nothing in the
That
big
was
box stores. That was as wide as what we needed, the 12-inch
yeah,
on
it was
center
getting
stuff.
a little concerning right there. It's like, yeah.
So, yeah, so knowing what I knew about the area where we happened to be, there were 2
Yeah.
local lumber yards, and we called the first one. And what did they have, John?
We don't carry that stuff anymore, but I can call Dixie Plywood and see if I can get it here in a few days, if they even have it.
Yep, that was the first answer. And then, so at this time, John and I are going, oh no,
Yeah, let's reach
So
for the
we've
last
opened up
bullet.
Yeah, we've opened up the side of the building, right? I mean,
Yeah.
understand, we've got a 4 or an 8x8 section of the building is not sided here. Fortunately, the weather forecast said it wasn't going to rain for several days, but we're like, oh no. So we call up one other local lumber yard,
Yeah, and they had it.
and they had it, and thank God they did.
Yep.
So the lesson learned is, number one is, we even thought we did it right by verifying the fact that they actually had it in stock. And John, actually, you went down to that Lowe's beforehand, and they did have it, right?
Yep.
And they absolutely had it.
Yep.
But the day that was probably 3 weeks. We had been planning this job for 3 weeks. A long story, but anyway, it took us a little bit to get to it. And when we get there to buy it, didn't have it. So verify the fact that you actually can get the materials the day you need the stuff, because oh my goodness, I mean, we were sweating bullets. I got to tell you, I was not happy, because the option was going to be to go to a narrower, not an 8-inch on center versus 12, and it just would not have looked professional.
Yeah, that wouldn't have looked the same. But yeah, because
so
I remember when I went to Lowe's, I even verified that it was that stuff, because it was, I think I told you, I think I mentioned that to you on the phone, is that how much it was. I think it was like 57 a sheet or something like that.
No, I think it was 75 a sheet at Lowe's.
Was it?
Yeah, it was more.
It was expensive, and I was like, wow, well, hey, it has to be done. It has to be done.
Yeah. So we go to the local lumber yard, right? Yeah. Midway Building Supply, by the way, just if you live in the North Atlanta area. Number one, I sort of forgot some of these things, John, so I just want to mention them on the show. Number one, we go in, the guy says, oh yeah, we've got that, no problem. And he comes, I said, well, you need 2 sheets. And he goes, great. And he hands me the bill, and it's $56 a sheet. I'm like, well, dang, that's very competitive, with the local big box store. In fact,
it always is.
And then the second thing, this is what I'd really forgotten, John. He says, okay, so go down here on the yard and take your second right into the building. And I was like, okay. So I drive down there, and we get met by a very nice young man with a forklift.
Yep.
Right. He goes up, he picks that stack of that very heavy, because T111 siding is pretty heavy stuff. He picks that stuff up, and he pulls it almost right to the back of the truck. And you and I just swing 2 sheets in. And John, I have to ask you, the quality of that T111 compared to what we've seen in big box stores?
Oh yeah, all the lumber at these places is better, and I'll tell you. Yep. It's
Yeah,
great.
I mean
Yeah,
it was clean.
it was clean.
It was
Yeah,
not warped, no delaminations. It was like I was like, "Oh, I need to start checking out
yeah,
local lumber yards
yeah,
again because I've
yeah.
kind of gotten away from it, I'll be
Yep,
honest."
yep. And that is a good, and that's a good point because even it wasn't like we had to buy a whole bunch of this stuff. It was just two sheets,
Right.
and they were more than happy to. Here you go, boom.
Yeah, and I think they've converted me when I'm in that area.
Yeah,
That's where I'm going to go because
yeah,
wow, I've known those guys forever anyway.
right.
Just very and I just you don't think about it, folks, but running in and out of the store is kind of a pain. When you drive the truck in and they put it right there and you just go bing bing,
Yeah, you're in
bing
and out.
in and out. It was way faster than
Yeah,
a BB, big
yep.
box as we like to say. So anyway, so that took us a little bit more time than we thought because of that. So again, the tip there is make sure you just do your things. After that, John, installation was pretty simple. It took both of us to lift the sheets up because they were 4 feet up.
Yeah. Do you
And
want
it
to take
took
a
a
look
little
at a couple
massaging.
of pictures?
Let's do it.
So there's
There's
Larry on top.
That was actually in the disassembly phase. We decided because of you can see the overhang here in the pictures. I'm pointing down at the pictures because my computer that I look at is lower than my camera. But we decided to cut that sheet in half to get it out of there because because of that angle, and plus it was heavy. I'll be honest, they were heavy. So
Oh man.
yeah, so we cut it in half and pulled the top part out from the top, and then took the bottom part out from down below. So that's what you're looking at in that picture. So what's the next picture, John?
Yeah.
That's
So
the inside of the wall without the siding on it. And if you look in the upper kind of right-hand corner, you can see that. So again, we didn't know how the construction was. This is actually where the braces go across, which is common in a barn build. Not so common in a home, but it's common in a barn build. So they go across. But you look at the one brace, you see that big dark area up there? That's rot. And it wasn't severe actually on the is that a 6? Yeah, on the 2x6.
right.
It wasn't severe. So we didn't opt to replace that because it really didn't need it. But boy, if we had waited another couple of years, we'd have been fixing structure of the barn. So
Yeah, and that's what I told the owner about this. This thing looks pretty bad. Don't let it go much longer.
right, right. So that's the second picture that you're seeing of us there. What's the next one, John? I don't think I took any pictures of you. Oh, so that's the same picture. That's actually where we had removed the wall. Now, this goes above. You see the roofing up above it. I'm looking at the picture, but that sheet actually goes up in underneath that cross piece. And you can see we put a 4x4 up in that. When I was talking about reinforcing the roof, we put a 4x4 up in there. Yeah. So you can see that Lair was not excited about stepping on that 2x4 that was a
Yeah.
little sketchy. Let's just leave it
Yeah,
at
and
that.
luckily they had this 4x4 just
Yeah.
sitting there.
Yep, it
So
was just sitting there, so we borrowed it. Again, he had a bunch of just spare lumber, kind of not. He had some spare lumber sitting there, and I was like, "Oh, that'll work. Let's use that." So we used that. So, and in an effort to save them some money, they weren't doing anything with it. Literally, weren't going to ever do anything with it. So, what's the next picture, John? More of the
uh
same.
same. Let's move on. So now we're
So
starting to put this stuff in.
yeah, we're starting to put the stuff in, and you can see how it had to kind of be stuck up underneath there, and then we pushed it over to the edge of the trim. It's not a hard project, folks. It just takes a little bit of finesse because there is what you don't see here. We didn't get a good picture. There's a Z channel edge, and you have to tuck that. You have to tuck the siding up in under the Z channel. That protects the water from getting into the top grain of the wood. And we did also replace down at the bottom. We replaced the Z channel that was at the bottom. It had
Yep.
been a little rusted. It was old. I don't know how old it was, but it was really old. So we just replaced that. That was a real simple, just a nail up project. So yeah, John's got the pointer on it, I think. So what's the next picture, John?
Um
A little bit more of the same.
but here's at the top here, all this siding has like a Z channel between it.
Right.
So that's what Larry was talking about right up in here.
Yep.
Um let's see what we got.
A little bit, yeah. So this shows a bit of this is when I was talking about the gutter. You see up at the top gutter, there, you see that there's actually a piece that had been replaced by someone previous to us, and it's just a piece of T111 that had been replaced. But that's was the culprit to the whole situation. And what's missing, and John's running the pointer around it, is the downspout is not showing there. There's a downspout that attaches right there and went back to the top of the metal roof that's there, and just dumped the water down the metal roof to catch it in this gutter. Now, in the bottom gutter, I should rephrase that, in the bottom gutter. Now, we fixed that by there happened to be a piece of downspout sitting there, and we took that downspout, put it under the elbow, and ran it out into the gutter to solve that problem. So that was just because we didn't have to buy anything. It was sitting there, and it took all the water off that, or most of the water off that siding. So what's the next picture, John? Yeah, just a bit more of the same. You can see that it's not terribly high, but it's high enough. We don't like heights too much because we're not kids. And I'm
Yeah, and
never.
Larry had the ground was pretty far away that day, wasn't it, Larry?
It is when you're 6'4" and you're standing up on 10 feet or 12 feet or however high that is. I guess that's
Well,
probably
you
about.
could barely bend over and pick anything off the ground. Getting so old.
Yeah, yeah. Who's
But
talking? Who's talking? I heard a lot of grunting
right.
coming from you, John.
But
What's
look at but right here is where the hole was that we had to take the that tongue and groove off.
Yeah,
All
up
this
here?
was that tongue and groove.
Yep,
All
yep.
this up here was that tongue and groove.
So you can see some of that tongue and groove that came out, and we did find out that there were some challenges in putting that in. I thought it'd be pretty simple, except the boards we used had been sitting for a while, so they had a little warp to them. But we ended up getting it in. It came out looking pretty good. I think we've got some pictures of
Yeah.
that, but keep going, John.
So let's move on here.
Me climbing up. Yeah, there's the tongue and groove. So you can see that's a good picture of that. Those are literally two by sixes that are made in tongue and groove, and we replace that whole piece. You also can see the flashing here. We actually took a long piece of I don't exactly remember what it's called, but you can see the outline of it there, and we screwed it into the edge. We then ran a bead of caulk all the way down that board, so any water that gets onto that siding ends up getting pushed out onto the roof. Before that didn't exist. It sort of landed on the roof, but there was a gap about that much. So some of that water was dripping through. And I'm just like, wow, all this takes is one really simple piece of metal to fix that. And we fixed it.
Yeah.
And you can also see in the back corner there, you can see where the gutter mounts are for the downspouts. I don't know if we have a finished picture of that, but we'll see in a minute. I can't remember if we got a picture.
Let me see if I've got. Let's see what the next picture is.
That's my feet.
It's your feet. That's your
Keep
feet.
going.
I wasn't going to get up on that roof with you up there.
Johnny didn't feel safe with two people on the roof. I can't say that I would have felt too safe.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I would have gotten up there myself, but not with both of us.
What's the next one, John? More of the same.
Yeah.
Oh, well, no,
but
actually,
you see the gutter.
Yeah, there you see the gutter, and you actually see the
finished
downspout.
there.
Yeah, that's really a very close to finish up. But you see, we put the downspout all the way down and into the gutter. So the water runs now down off and into the bottom gutter to keep the water off that siding. And we did behind that gutter also as another piece of that Z flashing. So we flashed that as well and caulked that all up really good to make sure that water's staying on top of the metal of this roof and running off into the gutter. And then the gutter at the bottom takes it out away from the structure. So you also see our magnet there. We were up on that roof. We use a wide base magnet, folks. If you don't have one and you've got nails all over the place, you just zip that thing over there and pick up all the nails and you're done. So it's just that's a quick little time saving tip. One thing we just on this completed view, we just want to show some of the value add. So all the things that you see with that tongue and groove were originally not part of the job. So we did that gratis because it just needed to be done, and that the material was there. So it was just a little bit of time. I don't think it took us probably took us an hour to do that, I guess, because we did run into
not that long. I don't know what we'd do if the rest of that was rotted. I don't think there was enough material in there. But
yeah, there wasn't. But we just saw that opportunity and we took it, and that's a bit of how we do business. But it was just kind of that thing of like it just presented itself, and so we did it because it was easy, and it really fixed the problem completely instead of just kind of semi-fix the problem, I guess. And same thing with the flashing and all that. Like the flashing wasn't originally wasn't even really part of the job, but I'm like, we were talking about, I don't know, it was like $12 a stick. I'm like, you know what? We
Yeah.
bought two sticks. It was like $25. It's like, we're just going to do this. Let's do it. Let's do it right. Let's do it so he doesn't have any future problems. And I think we achieved that goal.
Oh yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so
And it's all caulked, ready to be painted. They didn't have paint to match. They're going to get some paint.
right.
Anyways, that's what, we want to kind of show what we did here.
Yeah, we wanted to share some of those
Yeah.
lessons that we learned on that job, right, John? I mean,
Oh,
there were, you know,
well, lessons learned. Material. We keep talking about it. We ran into it. We got bit. Thank God we got over it though. We found the sheets of T111.
Yeah, the matching sheets, I guess we
Yeah.
should say. They had T111, they just didn't have the matching sheets. So, yeah, with that, if you have any questions or comments on this show, please send us an email, questions at handymanprosradioshow.com, or send it to handymanprosradioshow@gmail.com. We'd like some feedback on it. If you have a project like this that you'd like us to put out, we'll have you on the show and go over, these kind of interesting little projects, just because we think there's lessons to be learned through when we do these kinds of presentations, just because it's something that you don't see every day. And there's just, like I say, we knew we should check the product. We did check the product, and then we still got bitten. I've just,
yeah,
and we were like getting ready to call the customer and say, hey, we can't match the stuff. Are you going to be okay if we put the other stuff in? Now, this was a barn, so probably that would have not been a problem, but
yeah, you want to do it right.
You want to do it right.
Yeah.
So Johnny, the other day when the alien landed in my yard, I asked him, I said, do you want me to do this right? Or how do I take your ship apart? Do you want me to do it right? Do you have a manual?
Oh, I thought it was that kid coming out with the forklift. Another alien.
All right. With that, if you enjoy the Handyman Pros Radio Show, please tell your friends and neighbors. Give us a good 5-star review too, if you appreciate it, and we really appreciate it. We're trying to grow our audience, all that good groovy stuff. We're going to post up these pictures, Johnny. We need to post these pictures up on our Facebook group. That's at Handyman Pros, and we just put that out there and show that, hey, you know what? We actually do work as handymen. We tell you all the time that we do, but we actually do, and we actually have some photographic evidence. Although I don't have a photographic evidence of John ever doing anything. Oh,
yep.
Yeah.
I was just sitting there, just running the camera, right?
Yeah, that's all you're doing.
Yeah,
Sure.
and I just want to say, leave us a 5-star review. Thanks for all the interaction on the Facebook group. I don't get out there as much as I can, but when I do, there's a lot of good things going on out there. So I really appreciate that.
I will tell you, I go to Facebook every morning about 6:00. So if you see posts from me, it'll be at 6:00 in the morning. 6 to 7 in the morning is when I do most of my Facebooking. But anyway, with that, folks, we appreciate you. We will see you next week on the Handyman Pros Radio Show.